So, how's Ohio? How's vacation?
I'm just saying it's a lot of work. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. That I've been out of the house like twice, and that took an extraordinary amount of effort just to do that. And then I had to recover the next 2 days from that.
Why? What's so hard about it? It
Because
took you 2 days to recover.
I I feel like I'm the one person that where vacations are hard work. Because you're thinking, oh, Brad can just relax the whole time. But relaxing is the most difficult thing for me to accomplish out here. Because I cannot figure out how to get comfortable. Like at home, I've worn out my little areas, and I can go to the area on the couch that's like I'm worn into, and the bed is set up just right. Over here, I just
We're at an impasse, Brad. We're at an impasse. Because you miss being home. You miss being home, and I'm enjoying you being gone.
and it's ridiculous. I'm a ridiculous person.
Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.
I don't even know which one this is. 66?
Your guesses are getting
Is
good,
it
though.
6?
Yeah, your guesses are getting pretty good. How do you do that?
Film Every Podcast. Take 66.
Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.
Film Every Podcast. Take 66.
And action. Hello, Film Reverie listeners. This is Michael Beckmeyer, and as always, I'm joined by
You are cursed by
joined by I'm cursed by
Balding Ewok.
Balding Ewok, Bradley Kingston, who is actually on location in Ohio.
Yeah.
And you know what? I
Lots of
forgot.
fun to be had.
Jack, I forgot. And today we have a longtime acquaintance, friend, like Twitter buddy of mine. I've known him for a long time. I think we just decided it was about 7 years, right?
Yeah.
Known each other for about 7 years. It's Jack Marchetti. Is it Marchetti or Marchetti?
Marchetti.
Marchetti.
Yeah.
I never thought
it.
that was going to be the one.
Yeah,
and I realized I never, can you say my name?
Beckmeyer.
Say it again?
Michael Beckmeyer.
Yeah, you got pretty close. You got closer
Beckmeyer?
than you got closer than I
He
did.
doesn't say Becky Meyer, he says Beckmeyer.
I say Beckemeyer, yeah, but it's okay because I butchered his name as well.
It's cool. It's okay.
So how
Plus,
long?
I think I've heard you say it on your Kickstarter video. I think that's how I knew how to sort of pronounce it. So yeah.
Well, so one comment we've never had the where did you get started conversation. You're in Chicago, right?
Yeah, so born, raised in Chicago. I live on grew up on the south side of Chicago. Interestingly enough, Forbes did a article a couple years ago about the 12 coolest neighborhoods in the world, and that was a neighborhood I grew up in, which is called Pilsen. Mm-hmm. And I'd never in my wildest dreams would have thought it was the coolest neighborhood in the world when I was growing up. But yeah, born and raised in Chicago, and for the most part, I'm a tech guy. So I'm a computer programmer by trade. My day job is I'm a tech lead in the ad industry world.
Wow.
And somewhere along the way, I saw Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs and thought, that's kind of cool. Like, it'd be kind of cool to make movies like that.
Yeah.
And never saw myself as a writer, never saw myself as a filmmaker, and just one day just sat down in front of Microsoft Word and said, fuck it. Like, I got ideas. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And that was a very long time ago, and I never thought it would lead to me writing Christmas TV movies, but but here we are. So a movie's a movie, right? So
it is, and being paid
yes
to write a movie is better than
correct.
Yeah,
that was a long time coming. Finally, where I've had some recognition with the short films I've done, but no monetary recognition.
Yeah.
And so that was the best part when I checked my Bank of America account and saw the wire transfer come in and said, "Holy fuck!" Like someone finally actually like put like, and it wasn't like one of those dollar option deals which I've had in the past. Where like, we'll give you $1 for the right to shop your movie or your script for a year, kind of thing. It's like, oh, cool. And it was like real money that I could actually go buy stuff with. So
yeah,
it was definitely exactly. It was and I sold 3 scripts this year, 3 TV Christmas movie scripts this year. So it was like 3 times that happened. I was like, holy crap! Like,
did you really?
Yeah, 3 of them. All of them have been produced, but just one, which was called, and I didn't come up with this title, but Christmas Cupid's Arrow. It was originally called. I think we originally called it the Christmas Cupid, and then it was changed to the Christmas Muse because it's got like a Cyrano de Bergerac, Roxanne kind of theme going on.
Yeah.
And so we called it the Christmas Muse, and then either that didn't pass legal or people thought that no one would know what a muse is.
That's probably it.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is.
I'm Becca Meyer's muse.
No. Hey, Brad, talk about being overly friendly. That suggests, yeah.
What does that suggest?
You're my anti-muse.
Do I suck the muse out?
Yeah.
That's even more suggestive. Let's get off that.
So
we've derailed.
So for what I want to talk to you about selling script, but I also want to talk to you about you, like the couple of short films that I've seen you make. You have done one of those. At both times, it seems like you've done this crazy, over the top, like absolute last minute Kickstarter. Like I went to bed one night and woke up, and you had raised like $10,000 overnight to reach your.
Said you asshole.
to reach your goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you've like I went to bed and you weren't going to reach your goal, and then when I woke up, you'd surpassed it. Like how? Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How do you do that?
If I knew, so it was one of those like, if I knew how to suddenly activate a shit ton of people with like an hour to go, I would have activated them on day 2,
Yeah.
Waiting till the last minute. I think it really just is, I think part of it is a lot of that comes from a lot of the people I work with. So I work in advertising with a lot of like young professionals who are, not married. So we call them like, or they're married but don't have kids. So I call them dinks, double income, no kids. Pretty well paid people who are into creativity. So there's a fair amount of people that I know that have disposable income that eventually just come around to the fact that like, oh yeah, Jack's making a movie. Here's $100, here's $200 kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's basically, you spend, if you run the campaign for 30 days, you spend 30 days just annoying the shit out of people every single day. Like, hey, can you chip in? Hey, can you chip in? And it's horrible and it's awful and you feel terrible about it. And people will send you messages saying like, fuck off, like stop bothering me, and it's really, it's hard to do. Like anyone who's done it knows that it's just a giant suck.
It's soul sucking.
Yeah, and it's even more soul sucking when like, you go to bed and you wake up and like no one's backed it, and then you check your phone at lunch, no one's backed it, and no one backs it for like 12 hours, and then you think like no one's ever gonna back it again, and then you think like, is my video shitty? Do people just not like me? It just runs all through your head, and you're like, this was a stupid idea anyways. Like no one's gonna, why would anyone care about this stupid idea I had? And then you question everything, and and then somehow at the end of it, at least for me, I've run 3 of them 2 of them succeeded, 1 failed, but the one that failed raised like $50,000 on the last day.
Yeah,
'Cause I was
yeah.
trying out, yeah, you know,
That
it
was
just-
the insane part.
yeah, that was the one that I have no idea how that happened. Somewhere, just somehow, I don't know if you guys watch the Film Courage channel at all, but those guys just really came in. They were running a campaign at the time. They paused theirs and said, like, look, we're going to help Jack. And they just, I don't know what they did, but them and then a few other people just kind of got, like, we had this hashtag. It was All In for Jack, and it was trending on Twitter at one point. And I think we had maybe 2 or 3 more hours, I think it was possible that we actually would have hit the $100,000 goal, because we were, like I said, we raised $50,000 in that day alone, and it just kind of just blew up. It was insane. I no idea how that happened. It just one of those things that did. And then of course I made the mistake when I ran my second campaign, thinking, oh, all these people are going to come back and they really want to support me and they're my fans and this, that, and the other. And a lot of them that I reached out to were like, nah, dude, like that was a thing on that day and not interested anymore, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And it's like it's when you realize, like, okay, like raising money is really hard. And, you know, it was like 2 years after the fact. So, you know, what, someone may have lost a job or just any number of variables could have happened. But yeah, I have no idea how or why that happens. I'm about 99.9% sure I'll never run another crowdfunding campaign, just because I think it's gotten to the point where people almost roll their eyes when people do it now.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like, dude, like, it's not that hard to make a movie now, like, put it on your credit card kind of thing. I think people have that sort of look. And it's just, you know, there's only so many times you can ask people for money when they're not getting anything in return. And I think I reached that point. You know, I would feel incredibly weird crafting another email saying, like, hey guys, remember those short films you backed and this, that, and the other? We're doing another one that's, I don't know, is going to be any good. Can you help out? Kind of thing. Like, I just wouldn't do that again. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does seem
I have
like...
a question though.
Okay.
Well, the term dinks, is that something? It's a new vocabulary word I learned today. Is that something you came up with, or because that seems like maybe that might be a secret to crowdfunding?
No, that's I heard that. Jesus, at least like 20 years ago, a buddy of mine got a job at like a downtown Chicago office, and he went to some woman's apartment who, like with her husband there or something, and he's like, yeah, they're a bunch of dinks. And I'm like, dinks? Like, isn't that like derogatory for, like, you know, I think I've heard that in Full Metal Jacket. And he's like, no, it stands for double income, no kids. I'm like, oh shit, like I want to be that someday.
I want to, double income, no kids.
But also that's a great target group for crowdfunding.
Yeah. Except here's the deal. What I've noticed and what I've started to think about, I've run, was it 3 campaigns, 4? Mm-hmm. Two clicked and 2 didn't. Yeah. And the one that did click is because I was working with Jeannie Bowerman, and everybody loves her. Nobody gives a shit about Beckemeyer, really, but everybody loves Jeannie Bowerman. So
sure.
And then I went backwards, because the last one I ran was with Brad, and nobody likes him either. So
yeah,
it's like nobody cares about Beckemeyer, and people definitely don't care about Brad.
Right.
Yeah.
No. But it is sort of like dipping into the same pool over and over and over again. And there's so many filmmakers trying to make movies, but they all, like on social media, I have a lot of filmmakers that I follow. So if I'm trying to do a crowdfund and somebody, and all my filmmaker friends send me some money for my crowdfund, and then it comes time for them to be running one, then I have to send them money. It's like, we can't, it's like borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. We can't keep doing that.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I can't support your filmmaking lifestyle, and you can't really support mine full time, at least. Like, we can't.
Yep.
So it is hard, but I have a handful of favorites. If if you ran another one, I'd send you some money, and you would. I feel pretty confident that you would do the same thing for me. But that's just
of course.
That's like a couple of people. That doesn't raise $50,000.
Right.
Somehow you still work it out though, and it pisses me off.
That's what I was saying.
I mean, like, when was it? So on the last one I did was for a short film called Compatibility, and so each campaign I've ran has gotten much lower in the amount I thought I could raise. So the first one, I thought, like, if this was a feature film I wanted to do, and I wanted to do it at least somewhat well, and I thought, well, $100,000 would be like the bare minimum that I could potentially do this for, even though, knowing what I know now, that still wouldn't have been even remotely enough to do it.
Yeah.
And I also was naive enough to think that, you know, me with no social following, no real fan base, you know, no email list I could blast, that I could raise that. And I remember I was like, blind optimism, kind of, I guess pun intended, but because I'm anyone who doesn't know, I'm legally blind.
Right. Yeah. I don't think I told Brad that.
Yeah. So
was Kurosawa when he. I mean, Kurosawa was like blind by the time he was done making movies. So I think he made his last handful of movies not being able to see. So you're in good company.
Yeah, it's a thing, but you move past it. So, but I had thought, I could, there's a pretty decent. Lucas McNally is a guy I think we both follow on Twitter who had done a bunch of like research on these things, and he had helped me out, and I didn't really want to use the blind thing as like an angle. And he's like, dude, you're an idiot if you don't. That's like the only thing that's going to potentially make your campaign this thing. Like, no one gives a shit that you're making a crime thriller in Chicago. Everyone's making a crime thriller in Chicago. But the fact that you're a blind person doing it would be something people could get behind. I'm like, all right, fuck it. Let's go full steam ahead. And made that kind of like a part of the campaign. And I think on day one, we raised like $3,500. And I realized, holy fuck, I have to raise that every day for 30 days. And I've tapped everyone I know that I thought was willing to give at least like $100, $200 has already done that. And I remember thinking like, holy fuck, like there's just no way. And then I think I ran that campaign for 40 days, and it was 20, like the next 35 days were just basically, it's almost embarrassing because everyone knows you're not going to make it kind of thing, but you kind of have to put this bullshit face out there that like, and I'm not good at that. Like, I'm not a good actor, right?
Yeah.
I can't fake the thing very well.
Yeah.
And people started complaining, like I was getting anonymous emails, like saying, we don't appreciate the fact that you don't appreciate your backers as much. And like, why aren't you happy that we're helping you? And it's like, I'm out here trying to do the thing, and then people are telling you, you suck and you're not doing it right, and everyone's got an opinion. And I remember I had written, because I was writing a blog every day of the whole thing to just kind of chronicle, so people anyone who ran a campaign in the future could come back and like see what it was like to run a 40-day campaign that failed. And and towards the end, I had written this like just monstrous, like, I don't know how many words it was, but this just cathartic look at like my failure. And it felt so good to write it because like I could finally express like, here's how I really feel about the whole thing. And it wasn't me attacking anyone who, people who gave you money, God bless them. Like, this wasn't about them. It was about like my misunderstanding of what I could do kind of thing, and coming to grips with that and realizing like this thing just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And then that last day happened where we raised $50,000, and I'm like, I can't publish a thing ripping apart this thing that almost succeeded. Like, it was almost a successful failure in a way, insofar as like it raised $65,000, which was 65% of the total, and almost all of that on the final day.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It was insane. I couldn't believe that happened, and that's what gave me the idea to do this again, because before that day I was like, I will never do this again. And so then I was like, well, I want to make a short film about music. I'm really big into music, and I thought I was going to have to license music, and I didn't really do a real budget or anything because I didn't really know how much any of this stuff costs or anything like that, and just put together like, let's try and raise like half of what I actually raised. the last time, and I think I set it at like 25,000 or something. And that one again, 30 days, 28 days in was probably $10,000 away from succeeding. And again, thought I was like, again, it's not going to happen. And then somehow on the final day, people just come together.
They flooded you. Yeah. And I forgot you licensed music for your short film. How many songs did you have to? How many songs were you able to license with that money?
So the money I raised, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember at one point, we were when I actually started doing the budget and figuring out how much all this was going to cost. I remember thinking, do I set money aside to license music? Like the only way I was going to need to license the music was if it got into a film festival, right? And the only film festivals I was going to apply to were the big ones like Sundance, South by, Tribeca, yada yada, right? Because I'm not going to spend a ton of money to play at like, no offense to any smaller festivals, but just a smaller festival. I was only going to pay that amount because it was a fair amount of money to license these things, even only getting a film festival license. So I made the decision that if I got into any festivals, I would pay for the licensing out of pocket and put all the money we raised on Kickstarter into just the actual production of the film and that. And so when the film got rejected by Sundance, which I figured it would because I submitted very late, like a very rough cut, and I would suggest to anyone, don't submit rough cuts to Sundance, unless like, Brad Pitt is in it, then who cares? But if you're submitting like a rough cut short to Sundance, you're likely just throwing your money away. Yeah. I had thought that South by Southwest was my best shot because the movie was, a look at technology's impact on the music purchasing process and what that means. And I'm like, that's a festival that's big on music. That's a festival that's big on tech. And basically was all in saying they're the festival that's going to play it. I just feel it, blah, blah. And then I submitted to a few other ones. And the day I got rejected by South by, I emailed my editor and said, hey, dude, just wrap it up. Leave the temp music in because we're not going to ever need to license anything because I'm just going to release this to the Kickstarter backers and, crawl in a cave and never think about it again. And about 20 minutes after I sent that email, I got a call from Tribeca asking me to play. So it was like this really crazy day of like completely, putting the movie away for 2 hours and then, getting this call saying, hey, let's, we want you to play. And the only thing that sucked about them asking me to play was they were doing not only screening in the theater, but they were doing online. So they were putting my block of films online, which meant I had to get an online streaming license as well, which basically doubled the cost of the licensing. But at that point, I'm like, it got into Tribeca, fuck it. It's kind of worth it. Would I spend this amount of money to get into that festival?
So what did you end up? Can you say how much you ended up spending?
Yeah,
how many songs did you have?
So 6 songs.
Yeah.
Each song, and I don't know if you know about licensing music or anything, but there's 2 licenses you need. You need the license from the publisher, which is usually the guys who control, which is usually the artist. They control like the lyrics, the melody, things along those lines. Then you need, if you want to play the actual song people will know, that's the master recording. So you need 2 licenses, right? Per song. So it's 12 licenses. And it was basically like $1,000 per. So it was about $12,000 out of pocket. I paid.
But that's way less than I thought it would be.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, again, I mean it's just for a film festival license that will last that'll last 1 year, and like, after a year I can't, I couldn't then sell the movie to like, not that anyone pays anything for short films. I got offered to sell it to like Shorts HD, and I think they offered me like $100 a minute for 3 years, which the movie's 7 minutes long, so I would have gotten $700.
Yeah. Right.
So, to license for me to sell the thing, I would have had to license again. So it just doesn't make any financial sense to do it. But $12,000 to just to get the licensing rights just for 1 year was it's a lot cheaper because they do offer film festival only licensing, which is the cheapest they'll offer, which is usually $500 per license. So you need $1,000 per license.
So that people know, your song was basically. I'm not your song. Your short film covered like a moment, almost like a collage, kind of like in a moment in time.
Right.
Was it like a year of your life? I can't remember.
So the film's called The Evolution of a Gen X Music Purchaser.
Yeah, great title.
If you just Google that, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
It followed a character which is basically like a dramatized version of me, from the mid-90s to modern day, and followed his life and chronicled it by parts in his life when he bought a specific album, and how that it was basically it started off in a record store, and it was this big thing. He was leaving high school that day to go pick up this record he's been dying to pick up, and he had to go to a store and picked it up, and he bought this physical thing, and then the movie ends where he's just kind of listening to something on his phone.
Yeah.
And kind of it was a look at the devaluation of music, where it used to be this big event kind of thing where
like an album would come out, like release day.
Yeah, I remember the second scene in the film is the characters are at Tower Records to pick up a Slayer album on the night before 9/11, ironically called God Hates Us All. And it used to be a thing where you would go to a place, and it was a thing. You got together with your friends and you would wait in line, and there was you would talk about music with people. And now it's like you just Spotify emails you when there's a new album, and you just kind of click on that, and so it was a look at that and how technology, like I started to notice in my short films, not necessarily in my Christmas movies, but there tends to be a theme of like technology's impact, which kind of makes sense because I'm a computer programmer, and I never really thought of like that I would find this theme of technology in my creativity or whatever. But yeah, that's what the short was about.
I want to ask though, what you go through all that effort and you spend all that money to play it at the film festival. What is the goal and what do you get out of it?
Tribeca, which is one of the top 5
struggling filmmakers like Becca Meyer and I. We just have to make a film, and we just want someone to see it, and we don't have the money, or we just can't imagine going through all that effort and getting it into Tribeca, and then are we going to get it? So I'm just wondering, what's the plan? What do you get out of it?
Sure. So the way I looked at it was when I decided to make a short, it was partly just to make something, because I had written a ton of scripts. I had several optioned. None of them ever went anywhere. And I never thought of myself as a director, but said, fuck it, like, if no one else is going to make anything, let me make something. And so I made it, and then thought, well, what's the point of making this? And then I thought, well, if it got into something like Sundance, or it got into something like South by or Tribeca or one of the big festivals, perhaps like just the networking aspect of getting in there alone would lead to further something, right?
Yeah. And
getting into Tribeca, it's one of those, it's just kind of it's a stamp of credibility. Like if you tell, like, people will pay attention to you a little bit more when you mention that. The fact that you've played at a big festival means you're an alumni of that festival, therefore your future projects don't have to go through the huge screening process. They basically go directly to the programmers, so you have a better shot of getting in. If you make a feature film in the future, you kind of already have an in to say, and you can sort of use that as, I don't want to say collateral or as an asset, but if you're financing a project and you've already played at a bigger festival and the odds of you playing at that festival are now higher, distributors might look at that a little differently. I met a ton of cool people there that I've kept in touch with and have benefited from knowing, and would have never met them had I not played there.
So you actually went up there. You
Oh
had to
yeah.
spend the money to fly up there.
Oh yeah. So I flew up there, stayed in New York for a week, which isn't cheap by any means. Um,
And did you have to print out a bunch of materials and to promote the movie to get people to come see it?
no, so Tribeca gets national news, so you don't really have to promote anything. All screenings were completely sold out. Um, we played at like a Regal Cinema that I don't know how many people it held, but it was several hundred people, and they were all sold out.
That'd
They
be
had
nice.
they had a red carpet. The press actually interviewed me on a red carpet, which was really really weird. Um,
Wow.
What,
you
weren't
know,
used? You're not used to that?
no, not at all. You know, it's just it's one of those things you spend so much time with people not giving a shit about what you do, and then suddenly people kind of do
Yeah.
and are ask you questions about it, and like the way I put it, it's the moment you actually feel like a filmmaker, because like people are taking your picture and asking for your autograph, and it's like, dude, like I'm not really anybody, but sure, I'll sign this. Um, and you know, to be in a theater with people is, you know, and the thing is sold out. Like I went to other smaller festivals with the film, which had, you know, like 10 people in the theater, which kind of sucks, you
Yeah.
know. But you know,
That's
I
what
get
it's
it,
like everywhere else, by the way.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, but it's incredibly gratifying, but also very nerve-wracking to be in a theater with everyone, because, you know, it's not like I did test screenings on the short, so I don't know like how. And then I realized, you know, halfway through the film that like, oh, there's a way too much like inside humor here, like for that you know, like I'm, you know, not everyone knows who Slayer is, right? Not everyone is a Slayer fan. Not everyone is a Nine Inch Nails fan. Not everyone gets like, not everyone is as romantic about music as I was.
Yeah.
And you can just feel it. Like there's just parts in the film that I thought were kind of funny, and you could just feel like the lack of caring, you know, again, or you know. But I remember at the end of one of the Q&As, so after the screening, you know, you go in front of the entire theater and people ask you questions. You know, a woman came down and told me a story about how she, you know, what her favorite record store was. She had actually been sued by the recording industry for downloading songs on Napster. You know, it's just one of those things where someone got what you were trying to say, and they and like having to, you know, meeting them and talking to them, and then talking to the other filmmakers and like hearing their struggles, you know, and like seeing their films where you're like, holy fuck, that's like 10 times better than mine. Like, how did my film get in?
Yeah.
And then they come up to you and they compliment you on your work, and it's like, holy fuck, like I'm you know, these guys don't see through me and realize I'm a fraud kind of thing, which we all kind of suffer from. I think like there's a little bit of imposter syndrome amongst all filmmakers. But yeah, and the film also played in London, so I flew out to London to see it play at the BFI Film Festival, and that was really
lucky you.
Nice.
and that was that was really cool, because there was like a couple Americans in the audience who came up afterwards and were like, oh, it's like, you know, we loved your film, like you're an inspiration, because by that point I was using my sight cane, you know, and they're like, oh my god, you're an inspiration, blah blah, and it's just so weird to have people say that to you, but it's like cool, you know, because like people, there's nothing worse than people not giving a shit about what you do, right? And we all go through that. Like,
it's so hard to get people to care.
Yeah.
Like I'm constantly talking about it. It's so hard in this
constantly
world to say, to get people to put their phone down for 2 minutes and pay attention to you.
Yeah.
And in a movie theater, that's supposed to be a given, you know, that people are whatever. But even and I say it to Brad all the time. The problem is that, and it ties into what you were saying about downloading music versus like going to a record store and buying things.
Yep.
There's no nobody really cares about anything anymore.
Yep.
They take it for granted that like the digital revolution back in the late 90s, whatever, it changed our lives and it improved things. Like I have I don't even have songs on my phone anymore because of Apple Music. I don't own music anymore.
Yep.
Don't own albums. Stop buying DVDs.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's cool on one side of it, but on the other side of it, it's like flipping through Netflix and having almost like access to everything and not being able to decide because there's like almost like an embarrassment of riches. Yeah, there's too much of it, and there's no like. It's almost like you were saying, like owning an album, like that was thing. Like you might only have 20 albums. That was your music. Like as a kid, especially you didn't. That was it. That was your music. That was my little thing that I carried around in the car with me. And what out of these 15 or 20 things am I going to listen to today?
Right.
Or tapes. But nobody cares about anything anymore. And the same thing with movie theaters and going to see a movie in the theater is they just don't. It's a different world. I'm not really complaining because I know that more people have seen my stuff because of the modern technology, because of YouTube on a cell phone or on your iPhone or something like that, than would have ever seen it if I was insisting people only saw it in theaters.
For sure.
So I whatever little audience I might have, and it is little, I have because of this stuff. But I still love going to the theater. Like a couple years ago when Hateful Eight was released on 70mm, and
Yep.
I was there, man. And I was like, I went back and I saw it again because I hadn't seen a movie projected on film in who knows how long.
Right.
And I know people are like, what does it matter? But I could sit there and I could see the difference. I could feel like the imperfections in the film. And nobody cares. Nobody cares about it.
Like going back to the underlying theme in the Gen X short that I did, which is the devaluation. That film is about music, but you can just say it about anything that's been digitized, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like an entire generation grew up not paying for anything. They downloaded music, they could torrent videos, they could torrent video games. Apps on their phone are either free or 99 cents. So no one actually, there's something about paying $20 for something and owning it.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas opposed to I pay a fee every month to scroll through Netflix and I give this movie 2 minutes. And if I'm not interested, there's another movie waiting.
Yeah.
And the thing in the Gen X short, the first scene is the kid. It's 1996. The kid goes to a record store and he's buying Evil Empire by Rage Against the Machine, which is something I did. And I bought that album, put it in my Discman. I didn't like it. Listened to a few songs, wasn't a big fan. But it was the only CD I had in my Discman. So I listened to it again. And I listened to it again. And eventually I'm like, this is pretty fucking good. I never would have done that today. Like I give an album, I'll play, 1 or 2 tracks, and if I'm not into it, there's 9,000, like an infinite number of other albums I can just click on, or I can just go like my playlist that I know these are all the things that I know I already like, right? And I'm just gonna listen to those, and it's hard. I don't know how to stop that, and I don't know if you can. I mean, it's just one of those. We're gonna sound like old men. Old men yelling.
Yeah.
Like,
I was just thinking we sound like a couple of old people complaining about modern times.
Like I remember in the Gen X short, the movie opens with a kid skateboarding, right? And I had hired a guy out in Baltimore who has done a bunch of skating videos. I'm like, dude, just go rent a Red so it would match our footage, and get that kid and go just skate around Baltimore, do some tricks. Here's the costume that he has to wear, and here's the props. Sent it out to him. The kid got it, and there was a Walkman that he had. And the guy's like, "What the fuck is this?" I'm like, it's a Walkman. It's a Walkman. I'm like, what the fuck is a Walkman? Yeah. I'm like, dude, you used to put tapes in, and you would listen to. It's like
What's
you would
tape?
And he's like, you would listen to one album. Like you only had one album on you. I'm like, yeah. Like maybe you'd carry a few more in your backpack, but
and we were happy about it because
Yeah.
it was
And
better.
we liked it.
And we liked it, and it was because it was better than like having to only listen to music at home on a record
Right.
player. You know,
Right.
it was
So-
it was like snazzy modern technology. It was analog, but it was
Right.
it was
Yeah.
not. It was like
And,
an
you know,
advancement.
and it gave you a chance to, you know, listen to something a few times and to appreciate it. Whereas, like I said, now, you know, I give a movie on Netflix, you know, you got a minute. You know, if I'm not sold, if I'm not, you know, there's 20 other goddamn movies on here that I know I could probably watch instead. But you know, you give it a couple minutes, and not only that, but you know, half the time, like I know a movie's fucked if like 5 minutes in I'm looking at my phone, right?
Yeah,
Checking my
yeah,
email.
yeah.
Then I always feel bad about that because I'm like, I know I would be mad if I had because we all know how like hard it is to make these things.
It's
right?
hard to make it's just as hard to make a bad movie as it is to make a great movie.
Good movie. Yeah, like the amount of time, effort that goes into it, you know, and you put together this whole thing that ends up being, you know, in my instance, these short films are, you know, 10 to 15 minutes, you know, or like a feature that was, you know, almost 2 hours. And like I remember, you know, just, you know, knowing that half the people watching are probably not even caring or paying attention, kind of thing. You know, it is what it is because I do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, just it's a thing.
Well, so you've mentioned it a couple of times. You optioned screenplays, and then you eventually parlayed. I guess you parlayed that into selling 3 just this past year, right?
Yeah.
So how did you give us the 20-minute class on how you optioned and sold screenplays?
Yeah.
So
Because I'm looking for Mike Beckmeyer and I are wanting to write some scripts, and he even has a couple of scripts he's already written. So we'd like to start trying to see if we can get our scripts out there. So paint us a roadmap.
Yeah.
Well, the way these worked were, like I think it's 7 years ago now. A friend of mine, her dad had written a Christmas movie. She sent it over to me and said, "Will you read this, rewrite it, work on it, something like that?" So I did, and she got in touch with these producers who make. This is what they do. They just make these Christmas movies for Ion or whomever, and they really liked it. Optioned it. Didn't go anywhere. They optioned it for anyone who doesn't know, an option is a producer will give you X amount of dollars. In the studio system, they'll give you a significant amount of money. In indie world, they'll give you like $10, $100. They have to give you something to make the contract work. Usually it's $1, and they'll say, for $1 against this purchase price, which is, you know, $20,000, $30,000, whatever, we have the exclusive rights to shop this script for 6 months, and then there's usually an extension period. For an extra $1,000, they get another 6 months, something like that. And it gives them just the right to shop it, because they need to, if they're going to secure financing or distribution, they need to prove to the powers that be that they have the legal right to make the thing. So I had the first Christmas movie I ever wrote, got optioned, came close to being made, didn't get made, went in the shelf. Then I worked on, you know, other scripts that, you know, I care a little bit more about, like crime thrillers and things like that. And those kind of those got some interest, but never really went anywhere.
Are you optioning these with that same group of people?
Yes,
or
right.
Okay.
So this past year, so almost a year ago now, I got a call from this producer who he had optioned a few other scripts of mine as well, and none of them went anywhere. So I get a call from him, and you know, honestly, my eyes rolled. I'm like, you know, again, like another, you know, none of these have ever gone anywhere. So like, it's kind of, you know, writing a 100-page script that ends up going nowhere, that you're not entirely super passionate about. Kind of thing, you know,
it's a job. It's a job.
Yeah, it's a job.
Yeah.
He had, I guess, signed a term sheet with a distributor to make 3 Christmas movies this year. He wanted to use the one he had optioned years ago. So I was like, okay, that's cool. That's one. He had an idea for another one, and then an idea for another one, and asked if, you know, we'd be interested in writing them, or if I'd be interested in writing them. And no, like trying to write 2 scripts, like in a short amount of time isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. Even if you have like a synopsis, like the ideas there, you still like writing 100, you know.
Especially when you have a job.
Yeah, exactly.
A regular full-time job, yeah.
Yeah. So my brother, who also writes, I had asked him if he was interested in co-writing them with me. And so that's basically what we did. And for the one that appeared on Ion, we actually had to get a treatment approved by the network before we could actually write pages. So we had like a 15-page treatment, and then that got greenlit, and then spent about a month writing the script, which was probably the easiest script I ever wrote. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, can you give us an idea of the treatment? Like, I'm sitting here wondering, how do you? I mean, I mentioned this on the show before, but I don't know what joy feels like, so I've never experienced joy. So, how would one write a movie about Christmas? Do you like copy and paste something you've seen, or do you?
No, man. You sit down. You grind it out. You grind it out just like you do every other writing assignment.
So how did you do the treatment, or what was the idea?
So the idea stemmed from another script me and my brother had written, which was in the vein of the Cyrano de Bergerac Roxanne story, which is attractive guy wants pretty girl, but like can't really talk to her that well, so he has less attractive man write poetry on his behalf, kind of thing. So that whole story, right? So we had that, and then it was, well, just for this one, like we didn't think about what is the meaning of Christmas, what are the themes of Christmas. We just fucking set it at Christmas. Put some put some snow on the ground.
Put some snow on the ground, a Christmas tree in the background. Yeah.
Put some snow on the ground and make like
put the word Christmas in the title.
Yep, have the little cute girl in the film pick up an ornament kind of thing. So
okay, we can do that, Mike.
Yeah. So that was like, in all honesty, like if you guys want to write stuff that actually like, because they make so many of these films.
Oh, they do.
They make a ton. So there's always someone looking to buy them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like the way I looked at it was, like my mom, after the movie aired, she'd asked me and my brother, like, would you do this again? And I'm like, I'd write 1,000 of them if they wanted.
Hell yeah.
It's they pay you for it, right?
Yeah, man.
They're not I don't want to say they're easy to write, but like you're working in a pretty specific genre, right? And you're not I don't want to like trivialize them, because I still think they're, I think part of the problem with why some of them turn out so crappy is I think people do look at them as
shut them out.
It's just a Christmas movie. Who gives a shit, kind of thing. And I'm like, well, that's probably why they turn out looking the way they do. A lot of them.
I can tell you though, man, there's something in the last couple of years, maybe the last 4 or 5 years, that people love them. And I won't watch them, but I guess they're good to have on. I mean, I will watch yours. I want to see yours because I know you, but I don't like seek them out and go, oh, this one. Like I see Facebook or Twitter filled with people like, oh, we watched another one of those Christmas movies. I'm like, don't you watch Hitchcock or something?
Right. So, well, one, they're just easy to digest, right? They're not meant to, inspire critical thinking, if you will. Like you're not watching Inception where you're trying to figure out like, all right, we're 9 levels deep in the goddamn thing. Like where are we? Like,
is he really dead?
Yeah, it's like it's not Memento where it's told
in
backwards,
reverse. Christmas in reverse. That'd be my movie.
Oh, dude, Christmas Memento. That's the one.
I'm totally gonna pitch that next year.
Yeah,
I'm totally gonna do that. But no, I mean they're like wholesome, happy, joyful kind of things.
Dude, Christmas Memento, and at the end, when he gets to the beginning, he realizes that he's Santa and he just forgot. There's your script.
Dude, I'm totally gonna write that. But like I said, the reason I think they're so like people like them so much is they're not political, right?
Yeah.
So you're not arguing with people about like this or that. They're not making any sort of real they're not taking a stand on it. They're just telling like a very warm, fuzzy story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people just want warm and fucking fuzzy stories,
especially at this time of year, Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, like, going back to how you mentioned people seeking these things out, or like the amount of people watching them. So I have no idea what Ion's ratings are. You know, I have not a clue. And someone had uploaded the entire film to YouTube, right? And I was like, oh, cool. Like I got pirated. That's great. Like, fine. Like, that's so great.
I've arrived. I finally have achieved.
I've arrived. And I went on YouTube, and I think it had like 200,000 views in like 2 days. It had like 100 comments or something like that, which was great to just go through, like, you know, everyone telling you that, oh my God, you suck, or oh my God, this was so fun, you know. And it's like, holy shit, you know, like, there's like, if Netflix figured out anything, it was people want shit on demand, right?
Yeah.
You know, and no one wants to wait around until 9 p.m. Central to watch the thing. They want to load up their computer, and like, when I'm ready to watch, that's when I want to watch. So I was blown away by the fact that like it had 200,000 views in 2 days or something like that. I mean, it eventually got taken down by the producers. Obviously, don't want it on YouTube.
Right.
But yeah.
So what was it like? Was it what? So you just wrote this in like
March.
In March, and it was shot and done and ready by what, November?
Yeah. So
yeah.
I had my first call with Ion in February. I think they approved the treatment in early March. Wrote the first draft probably like 3 weeks, give or take. And I think we had 2 rounds of rewrites. So I think I handed in draft 3 in early May, and they filmed it in Louisiana starting June 1st.
Yeah.
And then delivered it to Ion in October.
Was it a union gig? Did you get WGA?
No. These are all non-WGA. Yeah, these are all non-union. Yeah. I think the only union that people seem to care about is SAG.
Yeah.
You know, because but I mean, at these budgets, I don't think they could afford to do WGA fees, and then to worry about residuals and all that other stuff. I don't think they could.
So what do you? I mean, can you even say what's the ballpark of the budget that they spent on the thing?
So I honestly have. So I was paid. So I'm paid based off the budget, right? So I get a percentage of the budget, and what I was told, it was, I think, 700,000 is what they had. So I have no idea if that's what they actually had.
Yeah.
Because I mean, do we know? You know how like budgets are? They're just, you know, they can get inflated or deflated depending on, you know, who they're talking to.
Yeah.
You know, I think they filmed it in 10 days, something like that.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah, which is 10 pages a day.
Hey, that's one more day than we shot our zero budget movie in.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I had almost 4 days to shoot my first Gen X movie, and I remember thinking, like, really, like, you're gonna film, and that was 12 pages, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you guys are gonna film a 90 or 100-page movie in 10 days, and I'm like, Jack, like,
it can be done.
Oh, it can, yeah, it totally can.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those things, like, you when you just don't have enough time, like, these stuff you end up sacrificing, you know?
Yeah, so it's funny because you've talked a little bit about like what you were saying, the stuff that you're not like incredibly passionate about. Like the problem, as for me, my biggest problem has been finding a balance between art and commerce, because I don't know how you are, but for me, I really just want to like tell my stories and make people sit through them, you know, one way or the other. But it is hard because you have to find. It's rare that you find somebody who's as like true an artist as like even a Tarantino or a Christopher Nolan, who you mentioned earlier with Inception, whose movies are he's struck a perfect balance between movies that people want to see and then movies that say something about the world we live in, one way or the other.
Yep.
And he's found an interesting little balance there. I'm still working on that balance. I'm way out of balance, but so I totally am with you. Like you said, you'd write 1,000 of of those. First of all, you're getting paid. Like that validates you as a writer, and gives you the, like, in the back of my mind, it would be telling me, okay, so I got paid to write something. That means I can write. And not only can I write, but somebody else says I can write. That just helps, move you along a little bit. So that's awesome. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I would never, how to put this? I would never feel I was above something. You know what I mean? Like, they're Christmas movies, sure, but I'm still writing them, so I can put me into them. Yeah, right. So
it's your version.
I guarantee there's no other Christmas movie that mentions Metallica, right? Metallica's in the movie, right? That's me. If you ask me to write a Christmas movie, I'm gonna mention Metallica. I'm gonna mention Nine Inch Nails. I'm gonna mention, things that I care about, because one of the things I've always told people is, and not that I'm some sage who's done incredibly well or anything, but if you're gonna do something, you need to make it come from, it has to be, I don't want to say obvious, but it has to, you have to put you into it. Yeah. And it has to have your humor, your point of view, your everything, because if it doesn't have that, then who cares? Someone else can do it.
Somebody else could have written it. You gotta insert your own, not your personality, but you gotta give it personality, and it comes from having your own unique, voice.
Right. And I remember, I think Tarantino was doing an interview, I think after Pulp Fiction or something along those lines, and he had said, and I believe this to be true, you should always feel slightly embarrassed to have people watch your stuff, not because it's shitty or poorly made, but because there's some stuff in there that is so personal to you that maybe you've never shared, or there's little quirks about you that end up in the film or end up in your characters that some people may look and be
was he talking about Uma Thurman's foot? I think he was talking about Uma Thurman's foot.
Probably. Yeah. But there should just be stuff in there that
Brad's laughing uncomfortably because our first 5 minutes of our feature film is a really awkward phone sex scene. And he was incredibly embarrassed. Yeah.
But I mean,
because it's how I would react if I was having phone sex. And I can't show it to my parents. They don't even like curse words.
Well, when my dad was alive, I had showed him. He'd asked, he's like, "Wait, you got a movie into De Niro's festival?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "When the fuck did you make a movie?" He completely forgot I had made a movie, and he's like, "Well, let me look at it." I'm like, "Dad, you're not gonna like it." He's like, "Why the fuck wouldn't I like it?" I'm like, "Dad, it's about, you're not gonna get it. You've never been to a record store, you're just, this isn't your thing. There's no Sinatra in the movie. You're not gonna like it." Yeah. And he's like, "God damn it, show me the thing." So I put it on my iPhone and played it for him, and I could just see the boredom in his face because he's just not. It's just not meant for him. Not the demo of not the audience. And he looked over at me. He's like, "You spent over $100 on that piece of shit."
And you're like, "Yes," and I did it proudly.
Yeah, I'm like, it was a little bit more than 100, Dad, but yeah.
Well, that is. I mean, we could probably keep talking for another hour. However,
I'm sure we could.
I would, if people want to find you, see any of your stuff, like your short films you mentioned. Yeah. Did Compatibility ever make it online? Is it online somewhere?
Yeah, it's online. It didn't do anywhere near as well as the first film as far as festivals go. But yeah, it's online. It's gotten a decent amount of feedback and stuff. So, but that's online. That's on Vimeo.
Your films, by the way, always look so smooth and polished. The stuff that I've seen from you always looks really slick, especially Compatibility, which had, I remember there was Steadicam work. There was visual effects. There's some I don't know about CGI, but there's some visual effects in there, and it looked real. You know what I mean? It's not like you weren't making something real, but it looked real.
Yeah, I mean the way I look at it. And this is just for the stuff I've actually directed, right? I can't speak for the look of my Christmas movies because I just wrote
Yeah.
them. But insofar as the shorts I've done, I remember before making the first short, people telling me, you got to get the first one done. It's going to suck. Like, get the first one out of the way. It's going to suck. I remember thinking, like, why does it have to suck?
Yeah.
And granted, I mean, I had money behind it, which is a lot of why it looks the way it does, right? Like Gen X was filmed on a Red Epic. Compatibility was shot on an Arri Alexa. We were able to get that because the people I met through Tribeca are all big filmmakers in New York, and they pulled some strings, and we basically got like $30,000 worth of equipment for $3,000,
Nice.
right?
Oh.
So there's another
I hate
benefit.
you more.
Yeah. So and then the director of photography and Compatibility is an incredible guy. His name is Daniel Katz. He's worked on Oscar-winning short films, a ton of Sundance work.
Yeah.
Just his like the way his films look is exactly how I picture them. So when I was able to, and again, I met him because of the people I met through Tribeca. I probably never would have met the guy or had him come on board for taking because he's a pro. That guy's working on a feature like every other month. So
It's crazy.
there's no way he would have just come to New. I mean, he lives in New York, but there's no way he would have spent a week in New York with me had I not met these people at Tribeca who vouched for me and yada yada yada. So,
Nice.
but going back to the look of the film, I'm a firm believer in sound is the most important thing. Like, if you have any money, spend it on sound. Make sure the thing sounds well, and then work backwards from there. Then, like, second, I would probably say production design. Right? Beside the the camera should be the last thing, because if you have a cool setting, cool background, like cool artwork on the walls, like don't put people in front of white walls, and I mean, again, if it's all you have, like it is what it is. But if you can hire a production designer to make the shot interesting, put some stuff around the characters, give them props and stuff, and then once you've got all of that, the sound all good, then worry about the camera. But again, like, I'm saying this as a guy who had an Arri Alexa on one of his short films, which you can't pull off the looks we had with an iPhone. You just can't.
Spoiled. You're spoiled.
Yeah. Totally, 100%.
Yeah, you're spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think it's important. Insofar as, like, I mean, the sound's really important, but, like, the presentation is important too. Like, even down to, your opening credits or your end credits. Like, I think if an audience feels like, wow, that, like, someone took the time to, like, figure out the typography and, like, placement of things, as opposed to, like, everything centered with Times New Roman from iMovie. Like, I think if people pick up on that like someone took the time to think these things through, kind of thing, I think it comes across. And at least in the films that I've directed or made, those are the things that, afterward, like, I love being in post-production. Pre-production just drives me nuts and I want to kill myself because I'm just a nervous wreck. Production just is a whirlwind where it's just like, this thing just happened and, like, it's over. The thing you worried about for weeks is now over in a couple of days because all I've done is short films. But post-production I love because, you can just kind of, I call it working at the speed of thought. It's kind of like writing or editing, where as fast as I can work on the keyboard and think of something is as quick as I can work, and I'm not constrained by actors or, locations or anything. And I think spending the time in post to just get everything, as like, I'm not a perfectionist at all in, like, my normal day-to-day life. Like, as a programmer, I'm very practical. Like, just get the thing done, make sure it works, get it as fast as humanly possible, and, like, get it out the door. Until, like, I started making films, and that's when, like, oh god, like, the perfectionist in you just fucking, you watch the movie and it's like, oh, I should have cut, like, 2 frames earlier. Like, what was I thinking? I'm a failure.
Yeah.
I'm a failure.
Yeah, I totally feel you. That's the only time I've ever really become controlling in any way is when I'm trying to control the outcome of a post.
Super controlling.
Yeah.
When
Well, that's what the director's job is.
yeah,
If they weren't called if they weren't the director controlling things, they'd be called, like, the passenger or something. I'm here to direct.
Yeah. What was interesting, when Gen X played at Tribeca, they were doing a 25th or 30th, I don't remember, 25th maybe, 25th anniversary of Goodfellas. And they were screening that, and they had, like, I wasn't able to go to the thing because the tickets were, given to more important people. But they had, like, a Q&A with everyone, and I think Scorsese was there and things along those lines. And he mentioned that, like, even watching it again today, he, like, leaned over to his editor or something and said, oh, we should have cut that a little quicker. And it's like, it's Goodfellas. Like, you don't, it's fine.
Yep.
And I remember
it's a perfect movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, like, all right, I don't feel as bad anymore because, like, after watching, my film on the screen or something, I'm like, oh, fuck, I should have, like, why was I on that too long? Or, like, oh, God, that's, like, a weird take. Like, what are we thinking? And I think my wife at some point was like, your movie's in Tribeca. Shut the fuck up. Just enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I totally understand that notion. I've, like any of my short film, Impasse. I could sit down and watch it right now, and I will probably by the end of it have a completely reconceived notion of how it should be edited.
Yep.
Not to mention, aren't there still like 2 things I need to fix in our movie, and we still haven't officially released it yet?
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that because I went on your IMDb again, like right before this, just to just catch up. And I know I've seen the film. Like, did you guys ever? Obviously, you just mentioned you didn't release it, but like, what's the story with that?
Did I send you? I sent you a link to Really Pathetic and Totally Awkward.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're working on it. We're working on getting it out. We have a friend named Marty Lang who's trying to.
I know Marty was actually at Tribeca. He was he came to see Gen X when it premiered because he's in Connecticut, so he's like 20 minutes away.
Don't you love Marty Lang?
Oh, he's great, dude. He's huge. I didn't realize how tall he was. Like, he showed up and he's like 8 feet tall. Like, holy fuck, because I'm a short Italian guy. I'm like 5'8" or something.
He is tall. Marty, if you're listening,
5'8" is short.
I was about to say, I'm like, oh fuck.
I'm like a whole foot shorter than you.
Marty Lang, if you're listening, everybody loves you.
Yeah, Marty's the best.
So where do people find you if they want to go see your short films that we talked about? And your film is it? We're past Christmas season. Is it still airing?
No, so it just wrapped. It aired 3 times on Ion. It's the producers will hate me for saying this, but like if you just go on YouTube, someone keeps uploading it, so it eventually will show up there. It'll be on DVD. Probably within a year for anyone who actually still buys DVDs. I assume it'll be on some sort of streaming service at some point.
What's it called?
It's called Christmas Cupid's Arrow.
That's funny. I actually saw that when I was clicking through on DirecTV for something to watch. I saw that.
Yeah.
Did you? But you didn't watch it, did you?
No, but it was on like 2 or 3 times. I was like, "What is this Cupid's Arrow?" I'm not gonna watch that.
Yeah. Oh, dude, when they gave me the when they came up with the title, I'm like, I wrote the movie and I'm not even sure what that means.
The title needs work.
Yeah. Yeah, so
that's great.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. Well, what's even going back to titles, what's even fun? So there's 2 other scripts that were produced, filmed, and are just waiting for, I think, domestic distribution before they end up somewhere. And I'd imagine they'll be for Christmas next year. One of them was one of them's All I Need for Christmas. Fine title, don't need to worry about that one. The other one, the working title, because I was working off a synopsis that the producer had pitched to distributors, was New Year's Kiss, right? Which I'm like, really? I'm going to have a thing called New Year's Kiss on my IMDb forever? Like, all right, And we kept going back and forth, and like, I'm like, I don't like New Year's. Like, I don't like New Year's, whatever. Like, let's make it about Christmas. Because like there was supposed to be a deadline at like New Year's. I'm like, let's just make the deadline Christmas. So the movie's all about Christmas. But for some reason, it's still called New Year's Kiss. And for the life of me, I'm like, guys, you're going to confuse the shit out of people when they go into this movie and watch it and realize it has absolutely nothing to do with New Year's. So, like...
Yeah, Christmas Kiss. That's perfect.
I think that's been done like 1,000 times.
Oh, has it?
So that's
okay.
the problem.
Yeah.
So the movie is kind of like about these 2 people who meet on the streets of Seattle and then spend the rest of the movie trying to find each other. And it's super original. and I think the producer jokingly had come up with. I don't know if you ever saw the missed connections page on like Craigslist, where people would go on and be like, "Oh, I saw you on wherever," and people would randomly like post things like, "I saw this person on yada yada." So he had come up with something called Chris Missed Connections. Lovely pun. I'm like, dude, that's perfect. Like, that's absolutely perfect. I wouldn't be offended to have that on my IMDb page. And however, for some reason, they just haven't gone with that one. So
That's funny.
Yeah, so New Year's Kiss is going to be on my IMDb page.
I can't wait.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
We can find you on IMDb, but where else? Twitter, Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. If you just Google Jack Marchetti.
How do you spell Marchetti?
Marchetti. And I think the first thing that comes up is like my YouTube videos. I realized I had made it when I Googled myself, and Google lists me as a screenwriter. I was like, look at that. I wanted to take a picture and send it to my mom. Like, Ma, look.
I'm probably still just listed as parent or a friend of Brad, because there's only one,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So
I was trying to think of something clever, and I had nothing. I got
nothing. Brad will suck the originality out of you.
Is that true, Brad?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I don't know about originality, but I do.
Oh boy.
Suck the fun out of everything.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
but you can
Ewok
just send us the
awesome
links.
name.
I'll put them.
Balding
What?
Ewok. Balding Ewok.
Is a great name. I love it. It's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks. I just had to give in to reality. I figured the only way I can get a date is if I just advertise. Look, this is what you're gonna get.
Just put yourself out there, man. Just put yourself out there.
All right. So that Brad can get back to his Tinder profile.
Sweet.
If you want to contact us, we are filmreverypodcast@gmail.com. I'm Becca Meyer. That is Balding Ewok. Jack, it was awesome talking to you.
Hey, you too, man. It's about time.
It's about time. We should talk more often.
I agree.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see your movie. Actually, I didn't see it this Christmas. I just didn't get a chance to. I'm gonna see it.
I don't hold it against you. It's okay.
Will they rerun it? Do they rerun it?
They reran it 3 times.
I mean, next year is it?
They're
going to
do it. They will. I promise you. If it has Christmas on it, you're gonna see it every year. That's just it.
It's my I believe Ion has the rights to it for another year, I think. So I would imagine it comes down to like if their internal metrics show that anyone liked it, I would imagine it would show up again.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And the 2 lead actors in the movie are both the lead actor was on CSI for a long time, and the leading actor was on CSI Miami. And I don't know if you guys watch Ion at all, but that's basically what they play all day is CSI and CSI Miami. So that's why those 2 are in the film, and I'd imagine because those 2 are in the film, it'll probably end up on Ion again next year.
Right.
But like I said, not that you heard it from me, but if you just go on YouTube and type in Christmas Cupid's Arrow, you'll find like 10 versions of it, and it's great. If people are like, "Oh, the sound's not good on this," and it's like, "Well, it's because it's a pirated copy, you jackass. Go pay for your art."
All right, we're gonna end it right there. Pay for your art. That sounds good.
There you go.
We've picked a side between art and commerce. Go pay for it.
We did good work today.
Due diligence, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
All right, guys. See ya.
All right, bye.
The end.
Film Reverie Podcast is a production of Super Mega Ultra Entertainment and is produced by Michael Beckemeyer and Bradley Kingston. If you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to leave us a 5-star review in iTunes. And visit filmreverie.com to listen to past episodes, and be sure to click like or subscribe wherever you find us. That's it for this time. We'll see you again next week with another episode of Film Reverie.